Good evening, everyone. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and tonight I am going to actually review the wonderful movie called It's a Wonderful Life. And I'm going to be doing this for Christmas. I know I'm doing this in August right now, but a lot of times I have to work until retail Christmas, and I'm going to turn this camera over here. I am currently doing a live stream right now. That's why I'm at an angle at the moment. And I may be saying hello to some people because now I have 4 people in my live stream, and I probably will have more before this day is over with. So if I interrupt for a little bit, that's only because I'm getting feedback from people in my live stream. I am doing this live, but I'm going to ask a lot of questions about this movie, so I want you, if you're watching this after the live stream, to take the movie. It's on DVD. You can pop it into your DVD player. You can actually play it. You can live stream it if you want. Watch the movie, and as you're watching the movie, listen to what questions I have from this video, and maybe you can answer some of them. I'm pretty sure that none of the performers in this movie, a few might still be alive, but I don't think very many of them are. I'd be really surprised if they were. I don't even know if any of the people that produced this movie are still alive. I could be wrong on that. If I am, let me know in the comments below. But anyway, let me go through this, and let's see if you can actually answer any of these questions. Number 1. Who drew the illustrations in the opening credits of this particular movie? Why is God talking to Joseph? Now, we'll find out later on that really wasn't God that was talking to Joseph. I don't know who in the heck was talking to Joseph, but that was the first impression I got when I was watching this movie. And whoever was doing this, he didn't know which angel to send? Really? Why is Clarence making clocks in heaven? I mean, they don't really need timepieces anywhere. I mean, they're in eternity. And why doesn't Clarence have his wings yet? That's never fully explained. It's partially explained, but not fully. Now, how does Joseph know the IQ of Clarence? And why doesn't Joseph just go out and find Clarence himself? Why does he send somebody to go? He actually says, send for Clarence. Why? Why didn't he just go there himself? He's got plenty of time. Okay, so if Clarence and Joseph aren't talking to God, who in the heck are they talking to? That's never really fully clarified. Now, opening scene here. We have kids playing. It snowed. How much snow did they receive, and how cold was it? And what would be a more interesting question is, when they filmed this, when the performers were actually out there filming this, I want to know how much snow they actually had to deal with, and how cold was it? Because, man, the film in the cold was a big thing back then. Okay? What duties were assigned to George Bailey by Mr. Gower? And what specific infection did George Bailey get when he fell through the ice? Well, he didn't fall through the ice. Harry fell through the ice, but George rescued him. Okay, what infection specifically did George get that would cause him to not have hearing in one ear? And what device was George Bailey actually wishing on? That's never clarified. And why did George Bailey wish for $1 million? I mean, he could have wished for anything. Why that? I mean, that's never fully clarified. And why were licorice ropes back then called shoelaces? And why didn't Mary like coconut? What did George do to join the National Geographic Society? Because he said he had to do some big thing to join the National Geographic Society, but he never exactly said what he had to do. Now, you have to think about this for a second. George was deaf in only one ear, not both. Okay? So when Mary whispered into his deaf ear, there's a good chance that George at least heard something that Mary said. So why didn't he react to whatever Mary was saying? Well, she was definitely close enough. Alright. Now, why would George want so many wives? And why was George late? And, you know, I know he looked like he was coming back from a ball game, but why specifically was he late? I mean, did the ball game go into overtime or what? That's never specifically explained. Why did George's father, Mr. Bailey, owe $5,000 to Mr. Potter? There's no specific reason given for that. Alright? What was George and Harry doing upstairs while his father and his mother were eating downstairs? That'd be kind of interesting to find out. What was the name of the family dog? Why was George still living at home when he had graduated from high school? I mean, I would have thought he'd gone on to college or something like that. Alright? Now, it seems to me like that George was actually going to college the night that Harry graduated. If that's the case, what college was George going to? And what was he majoring in? Now, they allowed George and Sam to attend Harry's senior dance. And it looked like it wasn't just those two, it was some other people too. Okay, now, apparently one of the seniors at the dance had the key that could turn the basketball court into a swimming pool. Why is that? And why did he hand that key to the other kid? Okay. Alright, George and Mary are walking home. Who was the guy watching George and Mary as they were walking home? Remember, they had fallen in the swimming pool. George had this football uniform on, and Mary had this robe. Well, who was the guy watching him? Okay. Could no one else successfully run the building and loan? Really? What was Harry's major in college? Did Harry receive any honors? Did Harry have a large wedding? And why in the heck didn't Harry tell his mother that he was getting married? Which college did Harry attend also? Which college did Mary attend? She went to college. Nobody told us which college she attended. Why was a crowd standing next to George and Violet as they were talking? Remember, he was talking about walking barefoot and whatever. George was talking about walking barefoot and whatever, and Violet was all upset about it. Okay. Apparently, George had read either a book or a magazine or some sort of newspaper or something that mentioned how plastics could be converted to let's see, soybeans were being converted to plastic. Okay, where's the article? Is it a magazine? Is it a newspaper? Is it a book? Where did he get this information from? That's never answered. And what job did Sam have for George? Why was Mary's mom listening on the extension? Did George and Mary invest their money as Sam suggested? And what was the investment? Now, how did they keep the rain out of 320 Sycamore? Now, I know in the movie when they went into the honeymoon part of it, there was still rain coming through, but I mean, that was a lot of rain. Gee. Now, why hadn't 320 Sycamore just collapsed by this point? Because lots of windows were broke out of it. It had rained probably many, many a times. It should have just destroyed the foundation after a while. And wouldn't the house be infested with rodents? I mean, who would want to sleep in a house that was infested with rodents? And how did they get the bed into 320 Sycamore? And I'm sure they could have done it eventually, but, I mean, in one day? Really? Now, do you remember that Mary smashed the Buffalo Bill record? Did she ever replace it? How could George and Mary afford to renovate 320 Sycamore to make it into their own home? I'd like to know. They didn't have a whole lot of money, so. Why didn't Uncle Billy fill out the paperwork before he went to the bank? Remember, George gave Uncle Billy the money to put in the bank, that $8,000. Why did he fill out the paperwork before he ever went to the bank? That way he would have never had to have stopped. Okay. Why would George, knowing Uncle Billy and how eccentric he was, okay, let's just say eccentric. Uncle Billy was eccentric. George knew this. Why would he entrust him with $8,000, especially back then? Why didn't Uncle Billy put the money back into his pocket? As soon as he had that paperwork filled out, he should have immediately put that back in his pocket. Then walked up to the teller window. Why didn't Uncle Billy figure out that Mr. Potter had the money? After all, Uncle Billy had talked to Mr. Potter. And why didn't Uncle Billy tell George that he had talked to Mr. Potter? George should have immediately realized this, even if Uncle Billy hadn't. Now, did George honestly think that yelling at Uncle Billy was suddenly going to get Uncle Billy to remember where that money was? I don't think so. Why didn't George just finally tell Mary about the lost money? He had nothing to lose at that point. Why did it take so long to decorate the tree? And what was the deal with the Santa mask? Why was this kid wearing a Santa mask? George loses $8,000 and he spends more money at a bar? Really? I know he was depressed and all, but I would have thought that the first thing he'd try to do is try to get that money. I know he tried to get it out of Mr. Potter, but he could have... I'm sure there was some other way he could have got... He could have called Sam Wainwright. Well, he did call Sam Wainwright, and he couldn't get a hold of him. But I'm sure he could have talked to somebody else. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Now, George must have known about the self-perishing clause in the life insurance. Excuse me for just a minute. I bumped the camera. Sorry. So if he knew about that, why would he try to jump off the bridge? And you're telling me that George didn't suffer any hypothermia or frostbite of any kind after he tried to rescue Clarence? Or was it something that Clarence secretly asked God to take away George's hypothermia or frostbite? I don't know. Now, where in the Bible does it state that angels have wings or that they have to earn them? That's not even biblical. And where does it state in the Bible that people that perish, okay, obviously everybody has a terminal point at some point in their lives. Once they perish, they suddenly become angels. That's not even biblical either. In the alternate reality, 320 Sycamore is still standing. Why? And none of the other kids attempted to save Harry? And what happened to Mr. Martini in the alternate reality? That's never answered either. And still nobody else could have saved the building alone, even in the alternate reality? I don't believe that. And Mr. Potter actually preserved the library? Really? Now, I know that George was slipping and sliding as he was trying to run back home, but you're telling me that he did not break his leg once while he was doing this? Please. Alright, feel free to leave the answers to any and all these questions down here in the comments below, and I will say overall it was a good movie. It really was, and it's a great holiday classic. I'm thrilled that I got a chance to watch it. I've watched it for years. I actually own a copy now. If you guys don't get a chance to watch it, I hope you do. If you have not watched it, please watch the movie, because you'll enjoy it. But that's it. I mean, it was a good movie, and even though it's black and white, it's a very good movie, and I hope you guys get a chance to watch it. So, I want to thank you guys very, very much for tuning in on this one. I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.